On April 10, 2010, a plane was preparing to take off from Warsaw to Smolensk, Russia, carrying a weight that went beyond its fuselage. On board were 96 souls, including the President of Poland. In the Russian city of destination, 70 years earlier, in 1940, the Katyn massacre left an indelible wound. 22,000 Polish officers secretly executed by the Soviet NKVD in a nearby forest, with all their bodies dumped into mass graves to erase a chapter of betrayal and horror. What begins as a solemn flight to honor the fallen could turn into a nightmare in just a matter of minutes. April 10, 2010, Chopin Airport, Warsaw, Poland. The airport has awakened under a cold grey sky, with temperatures barely above 2 degrees Celsius, typical of Polish spring. It is 7:27 local time, and in the military section of the airport, Polish Air Force Flight 101, call sign PLF-101, is ready for departure. This is not a commercial flight. The Tupolev Tu-154M, tail number 101, is on a solemn mission to Smolensk North, a Russian military airfield 250 kilometers west of Moscow. The journey commemorates the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre, where 22,000 Polish officers were executed by the Soviets in 1940. The aircraft is a Tupolev Tu-154M, a sturdy Soviet-designed Trije bearing the tail number 101. Built in 1990 at the Kubyshev plant, now Samara, this aircraft belongs to the 36th Special Aviation Regiment of the Polish Air Force, a unit established in 1944 to transport the country's political and military elite. Measuring 48 meters in length with a 37-meter wingspan, the Tu-154M reaches speeds of up to 850 kilometers per hour, powered by 3 Soloviev D30Ku 154-2 engines, each producing 24,000 pounds of thrust. Designed to carry 180 passengers, today it has a VIP configuration for 96, featuring leather seats, meeting tables, and an interior reflecting its presidential status. Nicknamed the Presidential Jet, it underwent maintenance in December 2009 in Samara, accumulating only 138 flight hours since then, leaving it almost like new. However, its 1970s design lacked modern systems such as advanced GPS, relying instead on analog instruments. Its white and red livery, with the Polish eagle emblazoned on the tail, made it a symbol of national pride, though some pilots considered it a relic compared to the Boeings and Airbuses of the time. That day, Tu-154M101 was ready for a short but historic flight. In the cockpit, Captain Arkadiusz Protasiuk, 36 years old. According to the KBWL LP report, he had logged 3,531 flight hours, 2,906 of them on the Tu-154M, a young but experienced pilot chosen for this crucial mission. To his right, the co-pilot, Major Robert Grzyuna, also 36, had 1,939 flight hours, 1,609 on this aircraft. Lieutenant Artur Zientek, 32, was the navigator, with a total of 1,068 flight hours. Flight engineer, Warrant Officer Andrei Michalak completed the technical crew with his expertise on the Soloviev engines. At 7:27 a.m., Captain Protasiuk pushes the throttles forward, and the Tu-154M's 3 engines roar to life, shaking runway 33. The aircraft lifts off smoothly, beginning its short journey to Smolensk. The passengers, many still drowsy from the early hour, settle into their VIP seats as the plane climbs to 33,000 feet, crossing Poland into Belarus before entering Russian airspace. The 70-minute flight begins uneventfully. Lech Kaczynski reviews his speech, generals discuss the upcoming ceremony, and some gaze out the windows at the clouds covering Eastern Europe. At 8:30 a.m. Moscow time, the 2154M begins its descent into Smolensk north. The Russian tower reports critical conditions, dense fog, visibility at 400 meters, and a cloud base at just 50 meters, far below operational minimums. Protashuk requests a trial approach down to 100 meters, a risky yet legal maneuver under Polish military rules. Grzywna extends the flaps, and Mikolak checks the engines. Tension builds in the cockpit. They know Smolensk North lacks an ILS and has inexperienced controllers, but the pressure of carrying high-ranking political figures as passengers pushes them to attempt the landing. The pilots are aware that the fog could clear within minutes, and if they fail to establish visual contact with the runway, they can always abort the approach and try again later. At 8:39 a.m. Moscow time, the Tu-154M descends through fog so thick the horizon vanishes. The aircraft's red and white navigation lights flicker faintly in the endless grey. Smolensk North appears on radar, a military airfield with a single runway surrounded by low hills and birch forests. Visibility drops to 300 meters, then 200, according to Russian reports. The terrain rises by 50 meters per kilometer, and 10 to 15 meter tall trees are scattered throughout the landscape, hidden in the mist. At 2,500 meters from the runway, the altimeter reads 300 meters above sea level, about 150 meters above the ground. The torch blares in the cockpit.
Pull up, terrain ahead.
But General Andrei Bwasik, the Air Force commander, is in the cockpit and insists on attempting the landing. At 1,800 meters, the aircraft descends to 100 meters, the treetops emerging like ghosts in the fog. Zientek shouts, 100 meters, abort! Protashuk disengages the autopilot and pulls back on the controls for a go-around, pushing the engines to full thrust. At 1,100 meters from the airport, the aircraft is at 80 meters above the ground. Suddenly, at just 900 meters from the runway, the left wing strikes a birch tree. The impact shears off 6.5 meters of the wing, ripping away the aileron. The Tu-154M violently rolls left, losing lift. The inverted aircraft collides with more trees, breaking off branches and scattering debris across the forest. Just 200 meters from the runway threshold, the plane crashes into an embankment. The 100-gram impact utterly destroys the aircraft. In just 70 minutes, Flight 101 ends in a smoking crater, and all of Poland falls silent. At 8:41, a deafening crash shakes Smolensk North. The remains of the Tu-154M burn, just 200 meters from runway 26, a chaotic scene of twisted metal and fire scattered among the trees. The tail lies torn off 50 meters from the fuselage. The wings are shattered, and the nose is buried in a crater of blackened earth. Russian military firefighters arrive in Gaz-66 trucks, making their way through a muddy path filled with roots. The scene is hellish, flames rising 5 meters high and an indescribable stench filling the air. The first responders use axes to cut branches as they search for survivors, but there is only silence. Local police and Russian army soldiers arrive with dogs and flashlights, combing the area through the thick fog. 20 minutes pass before an officer shouts, "There are bodies here." They find fragments, but no signs of life. The wreckage burns for 3 hours, and the airport is shut down. The news reaches Warsaw like a sledgehammer. The president and 95 others have perished in this tragic accident. What had happened? Was it pilot error, or was there more to it? The crash of Flight 101 shook the world, and the investigation became a battlefield of politics and technical analysis. Under ICAO regulations, Russia took the lead through the Interstate Aviation Committee, while Poland formed its own commission, the KBWLLP, to conduct a parallel inquiry. The black boxes, the flight data recorder, and the cockpit voice recorder were recovered on April 10th from the smoldering wreckage and sent to Moscow for analysis. The FDR revealed a deadly trajectory. The Tu-150OM was descending at 8 meters per second, far below the ideal glide path of 2.5 to 3 meters per second, and reached just 80 meters above the ground at 1,100 meters from the runway. The CVR captured the chaos. At 084056, Grzywna shouted, "Pull up!" followed by the TAWS warning, "Terrain, pull up!" 14 times, completely ignored in the cockpit. The impact came at 8:41 a.m. In 2011, the MAK concluded that the crash was caused by human error. The pilots, under pressure, ignored the TAWS and descended too low in dense fog with just 400 meters of visibility, far below Smolensk North's minimum requirement of 1,000 meters. The KBWLLP report, also published in 2011, went further. It identified Russian air traffic controller Lieutenant Colonel Pavel Plusnin as a key factor. With only 7 shifts at Smolensk in a year and no significant experience, Plusnin gave vague instructions. At 4 kilometers, on course, on glide path, when the aircraft was actually 20 meters below the safe approach. His colleague, Viktor Ryzhenko, later admitted that they lacked proper aviation English training, which is mandatory under ICAO regulations. The airfield itself was a disaster. It lacked a full ILS, relying only on an outdated NDB system, and had trees 10 to 15 meters high, exceeding the 8-meter limit allowed in approach zones. The Polish report also highlighted the presence of General Andrzej Błaszczyk, the Air Force chief, in the cockpit, with a blood alcohol level of 0.6 grams per liter, a detectable but non-incapacitating amount. While no direct evidence showed he ordered the landing, his presence may have influenced Captain Protashuk, though his wife denied any intimidation. The investigation quickly became tangled in political tensions. Poland accused Russia of delaying the handover of the original black boxes, ultimately receiving only copies and restricting access to the wreckage, which remained under Russian military custody in Smolensk. The AMAC found no mechanical failures. The Tu-154M was in good condition after a 2009 overhaul, with its engines running and 11 tons of fuel on board. However, the aircraft lacked an advanced weather radar, leaving the crew effectively blind in the fog. The KBWLLP report also noted a failed previous attempt. At 0825, Protashuk had aborted a landing at 120 meters, but, under pressure to make it to the ceremony on time, proceeded with the fatal second attempt. The controversy erupts with conspiracy theories. Some in Poland, including politicians like Jarosław Kaczynski, twin brother of the president, suggest Russian sabotage, a deliberate explosion or tampering with the terrain. The KBWLLP analyzed the wreckage and ruled out explosives but found that the impact created fragments similar to an explosion, fueling speculation. Independent experts, such as Professor Wisła Binienda, argued that the birch tree could not have cut the wing, but later simulations confirmed that at 280 km per hour, a birch tree was enough. Russia denied any blame, attributing the crash solely to the pilots, while Poland pointed to shared failures. A dangerous airfield, incompetent controllers, and a crew under pressure. The Polish report also examined the crew's preparation. Protashuk had only 6 landings in Smolensk, all simulated, and the team did not receive an updated weather briefing before takeoff. The alternate airport, Vitebsk, just 80 kilometers away, was ignored despite having better conditions. The official conclusion: a preventable accident caused by fog, human errors, and an inadequate airfield, worsened by political tensions and a chain of bad decisions. The disaster reshaped Polish aviation. The government banned leaders from traveling together and dissolved the 36th Air Transport Regiment in 2011, retiring the Tu-154M fleet. Russia cut down trees near Smolensk North and promised to modernize the airfield, though it remained a military site. The ICAO mandated that ILS systems at non-operational runways be deactivated and strengthened English training requirements for air traffic controllers worldwide. Poland adopted stricter rules for VIP flights, now using modern commercial aircraft. Flight 101 is a double tragedy. Katyn and Smolensk, linked by history. In just 70 minutes, Poland lost Lech Kaczynski, his wife, and 94 others in a crash that continues to divide opinions. This Tu-154M left a void that Poland still feels today. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. The Smolensk crash left not only a crater in the ground, but also in Poland's soul, opening up Pandora's box of controversies and theories that still echo today. Just hours after the crash, Artur Gorski, a member of the Law and Justice Party, PIS, claimed that Russian controllers were ordered to block the landing to prevent President Kaczynski from reaching Katyn, though he later retracted the statement. Jarosław Kaczynski, the president's twin brother and leader of the Law and Justice Party, along with Antoni Macierewicz, head of a special investigative subcommittee, have long argued that it was an assassination orchestrated by Russia. In 2016, Macierewicz, then Minister of Defense, called it the first shot of a war against Europe, pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin. On October 30th, 2012, the Polish newspaper Rzeczpospolita reported that traces of explosives were found on the wreckage of the wings and cockpit, causing a scandal, though it was later debunked as a misinterpretation of non-explosive chemicals. Macierewicz's subcommittee, established in 2016, insisted in 2022 that 2 explosions, one in the left wing and another in the fuselage, brought down the plane, citing analysis by British expert Frank Taylor, who called the Russian investigation a political fraud. Taylor argued that the small fragments, over 10,000, and the force of the impact suggested a prior explosion, but the AMAC and KBWL-LP refuted this. The birch tree and the 280 km/h speed were enough to destroy the wing. Without conclusive proof of sabotage, the debate continues. 26% of Poles believe it was an attack, while 59% see it as a tragic accident. The Smolensk crash not only shaped Poland's history, but also inspired a legacy of works that seek to understand or challenge it. One of the most well-known is Smolensk, a 2016 Polish film directed by Antoni Krause. This drama thriller follows a journalist, Nina, as she investigates the disaster, leaning toward the assassination theory. In documentaries, Tragedy in Smolensk, 2010, produced by TVN and BBC World News, offers a more intimate perspective, featuring interviews with families and a political overview in 45 minutes of raw reflection. Another standout is Letter from Poland, 2012, from Dutch public television, which explored the controversies and manipulations surrounding the investigation, questioning both Russia and Poland. In books, Smolensk Disaster of 2010, The Last Seconds of Flight, 2022, by Gregory Sulaczynski, provides a technical analysis of the crash, suggesting possible explosions, though without official consensus. More controversial is the analysis of Smolensk air crash event in 2010 by Delbert Alert, which argues for a Russian attack, diverging from official reports. Smolensk has no official memorial, But in Warsaw, a monument in Piłsudski Square honors the 96 victims. Every April 10th, candles and flowers fill Poland's streets in remembrance. Thank you for joining me on April 10th, 2010. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Which flight would you like me to analyze in future videos? Leave a comment.